Christian, how do estate agents beat cheap fees and get decent ones?
That question always reminds me of a frustration that was vented at me at a property network thing I went to, an old boys property network from my old school, actually, funnily enough, about 18 months ago. Did all the blow beforehand, sat down for our meal, sat opposite this guy, started getting on really well, and then he went on this absolute rant about sliding fees. We used to get two. To be fair, he was a commercial agent, not my wheelhouse. We used to get 2.4%. I'm now down to 1.2. You know, and that's half. Your fee revenue is halved in, I think he was saying, over about a sort of 2 to 3 year period. You know, and I sat there and I talked to him and I was like, well, why? Why is your fee going down? Oh, well, because the agents that are getting in alongside us, the other valuations that are coming in, those are the fees that they're quoting. So we're having to match or undercut them to learn the instruction. And I was like, well, okay, but why are you better? And he looked at me blankly and he was like, what do you mean? Why are we better? We all do the same job. And that for me was it in a nutshell. And I said to him to his face, and he was probably a good 10 years older than me and a lot more experienced than me. But I said to him, if you worked for me, you might have just lost your job saying that. I said, because if you genuinely think that every estate agent does exactly the same job, commercial, residential,
don't we?
sales, lettings, whatever, I said, then you know.
But we all look the same. Our websites look the same. Home, buy, sell, rent. Just change the colour and the font, and we'll do for sale boards. We'll do brochures. We all go on Rightmove. We all look the same. No wonder people can't judge worth if you don't give them anything reason.
Well, not being funny. If you going out and sitting in front of your customer, if you can't tell your customer why they should choose you, why you're better, why you're worth your fee, if you can't negotiate for yourself, how can a seller trust you to negotiate for them?
Yeah, so how do agents get back that mojo?
So I think understand who your client base is, understand what they are looking for from an agent, and understand how the hell you leverage that. Like, for us as an agency, our focus has always been about service. Always go above and beyond. Always try and do something that no other agent is doing. Not everyone will see value in it, but the people that do, they can't get things that we do anywhere else. Now, on a cost basis, does what we do cost what we get as a fee compared to a similar competitor? No, of course not. You know, it's perception, like with most of these things. But that's the point, right? I mean, it's like at the end of the day, does a Rolex tell you a better time than a Swatch watch? No. You know, does a Rolls Royce get you anywhere? Does it fly you to a destination or teleport you there?
Do you think there's too many agents trying to match other agents' fees?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, we touched on another one where we were saying, like, agents don't understand their local competitors enough. Yes, you know, you should be understanding your local competitor. You know, if you're going in and you typically charge, I don't know, 1.4%, and you know that the guy down the road is now doing 1% inclusive of that, and he's getting in at every valuation you do, you've got to understand that business. What is their success rate? You know, if you're selling 80% of your listings and they're selling 25%, well, surely that's pertinent. If the person needs to sell, if they're in a chain and that chain is dependent on that sale being successful, that's really important. I'm sure they'll happily pay that extra 0.4%.
But that seems like too much like hard work to actually go through every listing and see how long it takes to sell and what they get for their money and things like that.
But you've got to understand your competitors. You've got to understand who you're competing with. You've got to understand what you're benchmarking on. I mean, if you can't justify your value, then what good are you? I mean, what you're just going to sit there and go, well, that's our fee. Well, why is that your fee? Well, because that's our fee. I mean, if that's your viewpoint,
do you think we've become more lazy as a? I
don't think our industry has become more lazy. I think there's a lot of
Self-belief.
I think there's a lack of self-belief at times. I think people do give in to the fact that they were one of the three most hated professions, although I don't think we're as hated as actually people think we are. I think we just deal with an incredibly emotional, stressful process.
We are, aren't we?
Yeah, we're in a really, really turgid process that, even the slightest friction point, which 99% of the time has bugger all to do with actually
we're going to get the blame, aren't we?
We're going to get the blame. But I think agents take that too personally. And I know I'm guilty of that. Any criticism or major frustration that comes from a client, I take that enormously personally. But yeah, I think, we were talking about earlier about how you make your business a success, and part of what you earn for what you do is a huge part of that success, and getting your clients to understand your value, and
well, it's almost a way of life, isn't it? A friend of mine, Dean, said that a few weeks ago.
And I think whether you're the neg going out, most negs in this country earn on a commission basis. So I think all too often negs forget that 20% off the fee is 20% off your salary. It's too easy. And again, when you're talking little figures, 1.2, 1.4, 0.2% sounds like a ridiculously small negotiation to give. But when you look at it as a whole fee,
could be thousands.
So yeah, exactly. 20% of your fee. If you turned around to someone and said, don't worry, do the same job you're going to do next year, but I'm just going to pay you 20% less. You tell them to bog off.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. And so, look, a vendor or a landlord is absolutely entitled to see what they can get. More for them if they're not. But it's your job to have that tussle. And I think there was a really interesting chat. I think it was Eric Walker from the MD of Belvoir Northwood that I was having this chat with a while ago. And he said something which I don't think I can recall any agent ever saying, which he was, "Thank God for Foxtons." And I went, "Discuss?" And he went, "Because they've shown that you can go in and ask almost any fee you want, as long as you can back it up. As long as you can convince that client, and we've got agents around the country who are saying they're struggling to justify 1%, and Foxtons are still going in and getting 3% out of some clients.
Look at Savills.
Plus that.
Savills, they haven't got to worry about purple bricks.
Yeah.
They're just an estate agent.
Yeah.
A posh agent, but still an estate agent.
Yeah.
I think I think what we have to do is remember that the middle ground is where it's going to be the killing zone of estate agency, and we've either got to commoditise like hell and really cut our costs and systemize and go cheap as chips, or boutique like hell.
But I the cheapest chips thing, I still don't buy into that. I don't
There's always going to be a place for that.
There's always going to be a place for it, but I think,
But most of the people watching this are going to be high street agents.
Yeah.
You've basically got to double down. You've got to prove your worth. You've got to show that you are the most knowledgeable person in your local property market, the most trustworthy person, and you deliver on selling a great property for a great price.
And understand what your client's perception of value is. I mean, there was the recent survey that came out, but it's not the first time we've heard this, that your fee is not the deciding factor.
When you look at any buying decisions, cost is always...
Yeah. Well, we come back to the Rolex and the Swatch, right? The Rolls Royce or the Skoda.
Audi versus Skoda. It's the same car, same pan, same wheel train, same engine. It's just that one's 14 grand and one's 19 grand. Yeah. And if you can prove it, you'll get it. Mate,